Welcome back to another episode of the Diamond Discussion Podcast, sponsored by JBM Sports Media. Alongside my co-hosts, we have Joe Stumpo and we have Ben Anguiano. This is now the NL portion of our prediction video. We're going to break down every division and give you guys the wild card slots. If you guys have listened to the AL side of it and completely disagreed with everything we said, we'd love to see it in the comment section. So I'll tell you before the video starts, go ahead, jump in the comments, give your predictions, and see if we match up. But I'm gonna say that spiel over and over again. You guys already know the deal. But we're gonna jump. We're gonna go right into the probably hardest division we're gonna have to pick. I know we probably all agree that the Rockies are gonna win the NL West, but we have to give our breakdown as to why we think that. So, guys, take it away.
Yeah, JB, if you want to start off.
Yeah, the poor Rockies. The only thing that I got going for them is their mascot. And that's really about it. But yeah, I guess I'm going to start with the bottom just to make it easier. I'm going to go with the Colorado Rockies finishing in last place. It's been nothing but a dumpster fire since their last playoff appearance. And I don't know, when was their last playoff appearance? Does anybody even remember? I think it was so 6 years ago. I was going to say 2018. I thought it was.
That's what I was thinking, actually.
So it's literally been we're going on 6 years where it's been uncompetitive baseball. Just not ever getting better. It looks like their prospects aren't hitting either. Maybe Ezekiel Tovar was somebody that is a bright spot, but other than that, they seem to can't get any pitching. It's hard to sign free agents. There's no really excuse. It's a last place team. So I'm going to go with Arizona in 4. I like what they did, kind of addressing their pitching. They got Gallen, and they did get. They're getting healthier, which is another thing. So we'll see what happens with that lineup. I know they lost Suarez. Obviously, they traded him away a while ago, and obviously they're losing Naylor, so that offense is going to look different. But I see them finishing in 4th. I see the Giants finishing in 3rd. I see the Padres finishing in 2nd, and obviously the Dodgers finishing in 1st.
Yeah, actually, you're right. You guys were both right. It is 2018. I looked it up. I guess I was thinking about the Athletics for some reason. In 2020, they made the playoffs, so I guess just my mind went everywhere with that. But I as well have the Rockies finishing 5th. It's going to be little to none bright side spots for the Colorado Rockies this year. Again, 4th place, I do have the Arizona Diamondbacks. I'm just not a big fan of that rotation. I know they still got Gallen, but Gallen's been inconsistent throughout the past 2 years, and that bullpen is probably going to be one of the worst in Major League Baseball. So I've got Arizona at 4. I got the Giants at 3rd. Fan of their new manager coming in from the University of Tennessee. I think he's going to be holding his own. However, I just a little bit concerned about the back end of that rotation and, the bullpen. Randy Rodriguez got Tommy John, so that's that. I'm going to go with the Padres at 2nd and obviously the Dodgers at 1st, even though I think the Padres are still a very formidable team that could get a lot of wins in this division. Via the Rockies, via the D-backs. So yeah, I'm gonna go with the Padres at 2nd over the Giants.
I think that's fair overall. I'm gonna disagree with both of you. I'm gonna go a little differently. Obviously, in last we have the Rockies. I mean, I don't want to bury them. It's just a sad situation. Obviously, the Chris Bryant thing is atrocious. What's happened to him? We've mentioned that in previous episodes, so I don't want to really dig on that and something we already covered, but that is a sad situation, and I feel like his contract could be partly responsible as to why they're as set back as they are. It's just an unfortunate thing, and they got to hope that their draft goes well, their player development goes well, and they could look for something to the future. In 4th place, I'm actually going to go the Giants. I see Arizona. I like the way they performed after the deadline. They traded away 2 of their big pieces, and they still were there in the final weekend of the season. So I like their team. They did retain Gallen, who I think is going to bounce back, and they are at some point going to get Corbin Burns back to fill that rotation. So I think Arizona is going to jump them a little bit, and they're going to take 3rd place. And then I'm going to have the Padres. I almost don't want to put the Padres here because I feel like this season for them could go very bad. Something is just not setting right with me. I feel like they didn't do enough. They're in a situation where they're not really looking to spend any more money because now they are buried in bad contracts. So I don't know what they're going to do. I don't know if they are going to need pieces. Are they going to shell out and spend more money again? I don't know. I don't see it because of kind of what they did in the offseason. They're taking flyers on a lot of what if type situations, at least from my perspective. But right now, just for the sake of it, I will have them in second. And obviously, the Dodgers are in first. Do I even need to say it? Do we even need to discuss this? I mean, realistically, when you're back-to-back World Series champions and you add Edwin Diaz and Kyle Tucker, I don't have to say anything else. I really don't. So I think the NL West is pretty simple. I mean, unless somehow something goes catastrophically wrong out in LA, which I just don't see happening, because if they lose their first half of their lineup, they're probably going to have another 5 or 6 guys out of nowhere that will replace them, no problem, because their team is deep. They have depth in every facet. So, I mean, it is the Dodgers. It is what it is. You know, they're doing what they're supposed to do. They're doing what every fan base wants their team to do. I've said that before. So, I mean, that's the reality of it.
Yeah.
Arizona signed Merrill Kelly as well, right? Was
Yes,
that
they
another?
did, yeah.
Yes.
So they're running it back with like 3/5 of their rotation at this point.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with them.
Yeah. Guys, in the comments, if you can, if you completely disagree with the Dodgers taking in first and you really think it's going to be the Rockies, we want to hear it. Please give us your reasoning as to why. Do you think Chris Bryant, after the IL stint, he's going to, bounce back and become, 2016 Chris Bryant? Who knows? Maybe. I doubt it. But, listen, if that's what you think, go ahead. Light it up in the comments. We want to read it, and we'll have some fun with it. But we're going to jump. We're going to go to our boy over here, Ben. We're going to go to his division. Ben, would you want to be safe for last, or does it matter?
It doesn't matter. Honestly, yeah, we'll let Joe take it first.
All right, go ahead.
All right, so I'm going in fifth place in the NL Central, St. Louis Cardinals. I think it's just going to be, not the best of years. They've obviously traded Arenado. I think the next piece is probably Jojo Romero coming out of the bullpen. He could be getting dealt soon too, I think. They're just obviously starting to rebuild and retool that whole franchise. So I don't think there's going to be much success out of their organization for the next at least 3 to 5 seasons. At least that's how I think how long their rebuild is going to take. So I have them in fifth. Yeah, and surprisingly, I have the Reds finishing in fourth. I think they should have been jumping a lot of the teams in this division, or at least trying to match the amount of talent that other teams in this division have. And I feel like they've kind of taken a step back, even making the playoffs last year. I know they had a good enough year to get in, and they did get some help, obviously. That helped them a lot. Other teams not performing well. But I really feel like this offseason they kind of lost, and it's what's keeping them in the 4 spot for me. In the 3 spot, I have the Pirates. In the 2 spot, I think, which is going to be very surprising, I have the Cubs. And I have the Brewers winning the NL Central. I'm not just doing this because Brew is a really good friend of ours and he likes the Brewers. I just feel like even though the Brewers traded away Peralta, it's the same song and dance with this organization. It's not the first time they traded a superstar and gotten prospects. I feel like they're just going to bounce back and win this division. I know that the Cubs added Bregman. I know that they have a really good rotation. I get it. But you know what? So do the Brewers. And the Brewers are still a well-rounded team. And they traded for Kyle Harrison. I actually like that move. I thought it was a great move for them, trading Caleb Durbin. I know it sounds risky, but they're going to make it work. And I see them finishing in first. Call me crazy. It's not a hot take. It's just how I feel.
So, I mean, overall, we do kind of agree. I mean, the Cardinals, I think, are we've covered this. We have covered the Cardinals and what we see them with this team. They have the possibility of potentially finishing last in all of the National League, even though the Rockies do exist. So they are in one of the worst positions I've ever seen this organization since I've been watching the game of baseball. The Cardinals have always been around. They've always been pesky. Even when they're bad, they still make the playoffs. I've never seen it like this before. So, I think they need, I don't know, maybe a little kick in the ass and they'll end up back to the prestigious organization we know them as. So overall with the Pirates, I mean, they have to stay healthy. Their rotation absolutely has to stay healthy. That's vital. And their offense needs to do what it's going to do. I don't know if it's going to. I don't know if it's going to be enough. Right now, I'm going to have them in fourth. Right ahead of them, I'm going to have Cincinnati. They, again, relatively stayed the same. They lost. I know Nick Martinez was a decent piece for them last year. I know they lost that. they seemed to be willing to spend because they were willing to throw a ton of money at Kyle Schwarber, and they have the ability to spend. And then once Kyle Schwarber was like, "Yeah, I'm going to stay put in Philly," then Cincinnati was like, all right, we're not going to spend any money.
Yeah, it was it was actually disappointing.
That is, to me, that is ridiculous. Like, you clearly have the money to do it. You have a ton of young talent. You got Francona as the manager. What are you doing? I'm sorry. What are you doing?
Yeah,
you guys
Francona's not there to win 80 games a year and say
Right.
that, like, oh,
Right.
we were good, we were okay. No, he wants to win 90 games and win a division.
Yeah, and they snuck into the playoffs last year because the Mets fell apart, and they looked completely outmatched playing the Dodgers. And now you're just going to run it back. I don't understand why some of these teams are in the notion to run it back when you were not the best team. And then you look at the team like the Dodgers that everyone wants to be all, crying about, that they're spending money and doing whatever. They were the best team. They won the championship again, and they got better. And then you got teams that are, we're okay. Well, let's run it back. This is good enough. That's good enough. I'm sorry. It's not. It's not. You're not actually, to me, you're not competing in reality. Moving on from them, I'm taking the Cubs in second. Like Joe had mentioned, yes, they added Bregman, but they also lost Tucker. And they had Tucker for a decent amount of time that missed time last year due to injury, and that was what it was. Bregman, I don't know how well he's going to translate in Chicago. I really don't know. I thought he was a perfect fit in Boston. I don't know how it's going to work out. Obviously, you guys have seen the numbers. Power numbers dip a little bit in Chicago, especially playing at home. The Windy City. It's called that. It's got that nickname for a reason. Their rotation relatively stayed the same. They're going to get healthy, for the time being. So I see them in second, but I'm sorry, I don't see anybody taking down the Brewers. And so a lot of the points that Joe made. Yes, they traded away Peralta. We've seen this song and dance before. They have done this where they've traded away the superstar and gotten prospects. To me, they have turned themselves into almost the National League version of the Tampa Bay Rays. The Brewers are calling you about somebody. Hang up the phone, because they seem to be operating in a way that they know what they're doing. They know the talent. They scout well. They bring up their talent. They have one of the best pitching labs in all of baseball. I feel like nobody really talks about, because they're in Milwaukee. I think that's ridiculous, because the way they develop talent, the way they develop young pitching is something that everybody should take notes around the league, because they do it phenomenal. They really do. If you saw what they did last year, and their lineup, they're scrappy. They play almost an old school style of baseball. They have, to me, like an old school style lineup where they have a little bit of everything. They have power, they have speed. They're not just built on everything's exit velocity and all this. To me, the Brewers aren't built that way. They're built in an old school type of way. And I love the team that they had, even though they traded away their star pitcher. But I said it in the hot take video, and I'm sticking to it. I see the Brewers still winning 90 games and still winning this division.
Fair enough. I think those are both great explanations from you and Joe. For me, I have fifth place St. Louis Cardinals. We already talked about this in our hot takes video. I had them actually being the team that loses the most games out of every team in MLB. And then in fourth place, I do have the Pirates. I just don't trust that bullpen as well. I think that's one thing in the back half of that rotation. If one of those guys gets hurt, either Keller, Skeens, maybe even Bubba Chandler, if any of those guys goes down, I think they're automatically cooked, I'll be honest. So that's just a little concern I got. When it comes to their lineup, I just need to see it translate. And I just don't know. It might take a little bit of time till it fully clicks. Connor Griffin, though, I am excited to see him. I think that's going to be a major plus for them offensively and defensively, too. Third place, I do have the Reds, though. I think the Reds are still there. Like, they still have a very solid rotation. I think they have a very sneaky bullpen, actually, with Pagan and Santayin backing it. I'll say this about the Reds, too. I did like the addition of Suarez in that ballpark. He's kind of already used to it. So that's pretty good. And I think he's going to be mainly their DH and keep Brian Hayes at third for the defense. Ellie, I do expect to have a better year than he had last year. So I do think the Reds will finish at third. Second, I do have the Cubs. A very well-rounded rotation if you look at it, with Cabrera, Cade Horton, Imanaga, obviously Jameson Taillon. He didn't pitch the worst last year. Obviously, losing Brad Keller sucks in the bullpen, but Palencia is a pretty good closer. And their lineup, I'll say this, like, it's not that I don't think Bregman's going to translate well at Wrigley. It's more so sometimes I get concerned about his injuries as well. Obviously, he had the injury last year that took him out for basically a month and a half ish, and that was a
Yeah.
little bit tough for the Red Sox. Losing the bat of Tucker though, and obviously they don't have a backup like they did in Owen Casey because they traded him to the Marlins. So that's just going to be very interesting to see how Suzuki pans out in the outfield because at this point I think that's the route they're going to go with. I love Michael Busch though. I think he had a great year, and I think he's going to have another pretty good year. So yes, I do like the Cubs to finish second, but not trying to be biased or nothing. I do have my Brewers winning the NL Central for the 4th year in a row because I just think we're the most well-rounded team in this division right here. I think we have the pitching on both bullpen and rotation. I think our hitting brings a little bit of everything, like Mike said, contact, obviously pop. And I think we're due. If we could get obviously people forget Churio was hurt for like 2 months last year with 2 different IL stints. So that was tough. But if we could get him fully healthy and obviously bringing in Luis Rengifo to now be our third baseman, I think that could be a little sneaky, to be honest, a little sneaky. Garrett Mitchell, he's gonna have to stay healthy. That's gonna be a big part. I do like in general the depth that we have in the rotation because we have a lot of players that are about to come up. Whether it is Brandon Sproat, Bishop Lutson, I do think that we have depth in the rotation. Kyle Harrison, I do believe, might be one of those Quinn Priester type of gems that the Brewers found. Which I think if that's the case, watch out. Brandon Woodruff, hopefully he stays fully healthy. Mizorowski, how will he do a sophomore year? I think he's going to be all right. Like I said, Quinn Priester still there. Very, very consistent this past year. And I think he really found something in the Brewers pitching lab. Chad Patrick, he had a great performance in the NLDS against the Cubs. So, yeah, I think we're going to be sure with the rotation, even though Freddie's not there. And, yeah, I just feel very confident enough to say that, the Brewers, I think, in my opinion, are the most well-rounded team in this division. And we have, in my opinion, no shot, but I'll throw a shot. I think we have the best manager in this division as well. Because, I think Pat Murphy knows how to lead these guys. He's done a great job back-to-back NL Manager of the Year. So I think we're just going to keep the momentum going.
Yeah, I like the Brewers, man. I think they're too scrappy and they're too fundamentally sound, and I just think that's going to win. Win the division this year for 2026. It just to me it makes the most sense because they make the fewest mistakes, and that's what's going to get them over the hump.
I agree with that. And you know what? If you guys remember last year's prediction video, me and Joe did not have the Brewers even coming anywhere close.
Nope.
And they proved us wrong. So you know what? I'm tired of betting against a team that seems to have been sticking it to me for the last couple of years. Like I mentioned, they are a solid ball club. They really are. They're very well rounded. They are very well put together, and all the players seem to be bought in. And that's one of those X factor things that those are stats you can't account for, and everybody seems to be bought into the system. So, we'll see how it translates. We'll see what happens with the fact that they don't have Peralta. They don't have maybe the true number one right now, but I really don't think it's going to be that much of a problem. And who's to say they don't get somebody at the deadline? Maybe we could relive that. What was that? 2008 CC Sabathia run. Who's to say? Maybe we're due for a season like that where we haven't seen. I feel like a pitcher get traded at the deadline and have a run like that in a while. So that would be kind of cool, honestly. And maybe it's not just from the Brewers, maybe it's somebody else. But again, that would be a pretty cool thing to see. Guys, in the comments, we gave you our takes on the NL Central. Tell us how much you hate what we said and how much you disagree with what we said or how much you agree with it. We want to see it regardless of what it is. Light up the comment section. Like, follow, and share. Subscribe to the YouTube. Follow the Spotify, the Apple accounts. We are putting this stuff on so many different platforms. We have the TikTok, the JBM Sports Media TikTok, the Instagram. We are all over the place. So if you want, you could leave a comment of every division winner on every platform. Go for it. Or put one in each in the place, like 5-4 in each platform. And make it fun. Why not? Be weird. Who cares? We enjoy it. We're weird. You're here. You're listening to it. So it is what it is. But we are now going to move on to the NL East. I'm going to take a backseat on this one. I'm going to let you guys go, and then I'm going to give my hottest takes. Spoiler alert, I don't have the Nationals winning the division. I'm just going to say that. All right, I don't want to get any further. I don't want to spoil it. Guys, go ahead.
All right, so I'll start this off. I have the Nationals honestly finishing in fifth place. I just don't think they have what it takes to creep up in this division quite yet. I have Miami finishing in fourth. When I look at Miami, I say, even though, they've made some deals, trading away Cabrera, obviously, to the Cubs, depleting their pitching staff a little bit. Who knows what we're going to get from Sandy? I still think it's their offense that's going to fail them. So that's why I see them finishing in fourth. I actually think they're going to pitch very well, even though there's some subtractions there. I have Atlanta finishing in third, but this could be anything right now, right, guys? I mean, honestly, it's just me putting them in a spot. If they keep getting injured and they keep having pitchers get surgeries, and then maybe, God forbid, something happens to their lineup, it could really be a long season for them. And third place might be a success right now for what this team goes through injury wise. But this could be a swap with Miami, honestly, for third and fourth place. So I have them finishing in third. For right now. I have the Mets in second, and I have the Phillies in first. And I'll explain why I have the Mets in second place, because I'm sure Rose obviously trying to figure out why I have the Phillies winning the division. I have the Phillies winning the division because I think they're just a better, well-rounded team right now, especially on the defensive side of the baseball. I'm not really in love with what the Mets did in their infield. They have Bo Bichette, who's never played third base, playing third base, and they have Jorge Polanco playing first, who's only played one inning at first base. That's $62 million allocated to two positions this year in salary for guys that have never played those positions. And it's going to be extremely important that those guys play well defensively. And I also see a lot of question marks in their rotation, and obviously in the bullpen. What are they going to get from AJ Minter? Can Devin Williams have a 180 type turnaround of a season? You don't want to have the start that he got off to as a Met that he did as a Yankee. Is this lineup going to gel? How are they going to look without Francisco Lindor for a little bit? So I have a little, just early on questions. To me, they're not going to last throughout the whole season. Obviously, we want to see a full season out of McLean. I just think right now, with the rotation getting back Wheeler in Philly, and the rest of that rotation, how it lines up, even though they lost Ranger Suarez, I still trust Christopher Sanchez. I think he's a stud. I just see the Phillies winning this division. They kept Kyle Schwarber. I think Bryce Harper has a little bit of a fire under his ass right now for the way him and Dave Dombrowski have been going back and forth, being considered not elite by his own GM. And I think that's definitely going to light a fire under him. So I just see the Phillies winning this division by roughly 3 or 4 games. Nothing huge. I think the Mets are going to be right there.
I think that's a very fair assessment. So fifth place, I do have the Washington Nationals. Holy shit! What a horrible rebuild. For
real.
It's pathetic. It's absolutely pathetic. They already traded Mackenzie Gore. Rumors were CJ Abrams is still on the trade block. I think it's just such a putrid rebuild that they had. I know they're trying to go into a different direction now with the new president of baseball operations and GM, but only time will tell. But I think it's going to be such a brutal year for Nationals fans. I mean, look, when your number 1A or number 2 pitcher is Miles Michaelis, yeah, it's going to be a long year.
It's brutal.
Yeah. Fourth, I do have Miami. I think Miami could be one of those fourth place teams that are just fun to watch. I think they still have, in my opinion, some good bats in that lineup with Xavier Edwards, Otto Lopez, obviously Kyle Stowers, Agustin Ramirez, even Owen Casey. I think he's finally going to get the rightful playing time, obviously coming from the Cubs, and even Jacob Marcy. I'll give him a shout out too. He had a great second half. So I think Miami is going to be one of those fun fourth place teams. Third place, I do have the Atlanta Braves. Man, if you would have maybe hit me up maybe 2 weeks ago to do the predictions, I would have maybe said, all right, if their rotation can stay fully healthy after adding Suarez, maybe that could be a second place team in the NL East. But after losing Waldrip and Schwellenbach to surgeries, I think that's so tough. I don't think it's season ending by the way Walt Wise was talking about it, but I don't think they're going to be back to at best early August, late August-ish. So we'll see how that plays out. Sale, I do expect this hopefully stay fully healthy. I really want to see a fully healthy, at least one more season of Chris Sale. And Strider, I do think will bounce back. We talked about it, me and JV, in our video before. JV made some great points about Spencer Strider. I think he'll bounce back. Reynaldo Lopez as well. He's coming back from an injury. We'll see how he performs. At second place, though, I do have the New York Mets. When I was going back and forth with them and the Phillies, I really was. And I think I just came down to a few things. And number one being the bullpen. If I look what bullpen do I feel a little bit more secure with? I'm going to go with the Phillies bullpen, not only because Johan Duran is backing as the closer, but obviously having an addition like Brad Keller, who had a great year with the Cubs, now being the setup man for them, I think that's great. Obviously, people troll Kerkering because of the mistake he made, but he had a very solid year as well. I know they traded away Matt Strahm, but even if Wheeler misses a start or two at the beginning of the year and then comes back, and let's say he's 80%, 85%, I think that's a W. That's an all-star pitcher right there, even if he's at 80, 85%. So having Sanchez, having Wheeler, Luzardo, I think his strikeout percentage is still there. It's just a little inconsistent, but I still believe in Jesus Luzardo. And like JB said, I think they're the more well-rounded team of the two. Bryce Harper, you best believe he has a fire up his ass right now, like JB said. You best believe, because he for sure, I mean, those Dave Dombrowski comments rubbed him off such the wrong way. And you could tell with the not elite shirt. I think we're going to have maybe Bryce Harper's, I wouldn't say last elite type of year, but you're going to see Bryce Harper this year perform the best in the past, like compared to his past 2 years. Schwarber obviously finished second in NL MVP. You know what you're going to get from Kyle Schwarber. And yes, am I finally going to, talk about these Phillies prospects like Aiden Miller, Painter? They're going to make an impact as well. I think they're finally going to let these young guys play in Philly. Brought back JT Realmuto, so that doesn't really change. Bryson Stott, Trey Turner. Yeah, like I said, Adolis Garcia, I think that's an upgrade over Castellanos in a way.
Yeah, that's huge.
So, look, I'm going to go with the Phillies. I just, like I said, feel like they're more well-rounded. I do like the Mets' moves. I just think it's going to take a little bit of time to gel. I think the Phillies already kind of have that chemistry built in.
All right, that's fair. So I'm gonna go into mine. Obviously, I have the Nationals finishing last. To be honest with you, with a lot of the takes and some of the stuff that we heard from Ben and Joe, it's tough to follow and it's tough to say something different when you are on the same wavelength. So, I mean, reality, to kind of what Ben said, that this rebuild is kind of ridiculous in Washington. They got a haul back in the Juan Soto trade, and now they're starting to trade those guys away. I don't understand it. Spend money. I'm sorry. I'm sorry that you're still paying Max Scherzer. I'm sorry. Spend money. Make your team better. You're not doing that. You go out and make these moves. You trade a generational talent like Juan Soto. You get a monster haul back, and these kids are up doing their thing, and now you're moving on from them. So seems like they're going to be in the basement for quite a while. As far as the Marlins go, they have frustrated me as a franchise for as long as I could really remember, because they're good enough to be one of the most annoying teams in the league, but they're not good enough, or they don't spend enough to make their team actually good. They get a couple of Cinderella runs, win a World Series, completely tear it down, sign a bunch of free agents, tear it down again, and then here we are now. They were similar to what I said earlier. They were in it to the end of the season. They were right there. They could have snuck into the playoffs. They were right there. I feel like people forget. They were right there the final week of the season. How do you not upgrade your team? I don't understand. Instead, you trade away Edward Cabrera, one of the promising pitching pieces that you have. Sandy Alcantara is he's staying, he's going. They want a haul back. They want everything. He's still there. So I just don't understand. You were within striking distance of sneaking into the playoffs, and you don't upgrade your team. You downgrade. Don't understand that. I still think they're going to be pesky and annoying. Like Ben said, they have a lot of young talent. They're going to be fun to watch. For me as a Met fan, they're going to be a pain in my ass, because they always seem to be a pain in my ass. The Marlins are always annoying every year, and that's all they ever are, just annoying. They don't compete like they do, and they don't. But moving on. Third place, I do have the Braves. I'm sorry. I'm just not sold on this team. Even with the injuries and even before the injuries, I'm not sold on them, for the simple fact that they crashed and burned last year so badly. Everybody's been having all these down years. The year that they put it all together, everybody had a career year, and then everybody came back down to earth, and everyone's still waiting for them to have that career year again. I'm sorry, it's not coming. It's not coming. Strider, I don't know if he's going to be the same. There are these situations where these pitchers get hurt, and they're just not that guy anymore. Things like that do happen. It is unfortunate. We don't want to see it. I feel like we're potentially watching a what if before our eyes right now. I don't know. I'm not sold until he proves me wrong. So I want to say that he's going to come back and pitch well, but I don't really know for sure. I really don't, because we've seen this song and dance 1,000 times over. Sale, I want him to stay healthy. I don't, as a Met fan, for the sheer fact of I don't want to compete against a guy like that. But in reality, I want to see Chris Sale healthy. He's coming down to the end of his career. He's probably, if not borderline, he's working on his Hall of Fame resume and finalizing it to get ready to send the papers up to say, here, am I good enough to make the Hall? He needs to stay healthy for the rest of his career if that's even going to be a consideration and an option. And if the Braves are going to compete, they're going to need that bulldog at the top of their rotation to lead these guys, especially with the fact that they lost two of their starters. They upgraded in the bullpen with Suarez. They're going to have a nice 1-2 punch in the 8th and 9th inning. But are they going to get there? We don't know what we're going to see from Acuna. His talent exists, but he's got the injury issues, and we don't know if he's going to be the same. He showed flashes last year. He hit well, but we'll see how that progresses now through a long season. And the rest of the lineup, listen, if they're not in it, or if they're looking kind of the same as they were, don't be surprised if a lot of these pieces get traded off. We'll see how that plays out. And I hate to say this, but yes, I do agree with these two gentlemen. I do have the Mets in second place. I do, because I'm just there. There are a lot of points that were made. Joe makes a perfect point. You know, David Stearns comes out and says that his thing is he wants to upgrade the defense. Okay, fine and good. You had an aging Brandon Nimmo, his contract is probably not going to age well. You had Alonso that was borderline the defensive liability at first base. I mean, he scoops the ball really good. Other than that, as a first baseman, But I'm not trying to do all that. I'm not trying to come off like a bitter Mets fan, because I'm sure that's how that'll be perceived. But reality is reality. So if you don't want to listen to it, I'm sorry, I can't help you. But here is the reality. Yes, they put Bo Bichette, who has not played third base at all in his career, at third, and you have Jorge Polanco, who's going to play first. I don't think that's the final product. I'm sorry, I just don't. No disrespect to Jorge Polanco. He should be just the DH. Put Beatty on the field. My thing is Beatty should be the first baseman, even over Vientos. You want to make Beatty this versatile guy that can play all these positions. Maybe he's the backup plan in right field in case Benj doesn't pan out right away. I don't know what they're going to do with that. I think Beatty's going to end up taking over the first base role, and Polanco is going to go to DH, because I think his defense is just not going to be good enough. So that's where it doesn't make sense, because like Joe alluded to, like Ben alluded to, there are some question marks. We're going to see how this team gels. We're going to see how this whole new mix-up of this clubhouse comes together. Until it's proven, I can't say that they're definitely going to win the division. I can't say that. So that is the reality of the situation. Their rotation, on the other hand, I think is going to be fine with the addition of Peralta. You have one of the baddest rookies on the planet, Nolan McLean. I've mentioned him 100 times over. Kid throws a slider. It looks like a Frisbee. It is disgusting. I think he's going to be fine. I think he's going to dominate. And then the rest of that rotation, we're going to see how it plays out with guys like Kodai Senga. What is he going to be? Is he going to bounce back to his form? Not saying what he was in the first half of last year before, the injury to his hamstring when Pete Alonso threw it over his head. Back to that first base metric stuff. Yeah, that can be part of it. But reality is we're going to see what Senga is going to be. Is Minaya going to bounce back? How is he going to look? Is he the guy from 2024 or is he the guy from 2025? Time will tell. We're going to see how that plays out. David Peterson got some more innings on his arm last year, and he got a little more stretched out. If you guys notice, he was an all-star last year and then basically ran out of gas because he's never pitched that amount of innings before in his career. Now he has. We'll see how that plays out. Overall, with the bullpen, I like the bullpen. I like what they did. I don't think Devin Williams is what he was last year. I'm sorry, I don't. And I'm not trying to make excuses. The reality is, if you Met fans all remember, and any baseball fan remember, when Edwin Diaz first got to New York, he was worse than Devin Williams was as a Yankee. So look at
That's a good point.
Look at right now. Everyone's begging that Diaz to come back, and the Mets are stupid for letting him go for $3 million more. But you forget in 2019 when he first got here, he was atrocious. His ERA was almost a 6, and he was almost ran out of town. Met fans were burning at the stake that we traded Jared Kelnick for Robinson, an aging Robinson Cano, who then also got suspended for steroid use, and Edwin Diaz, who was absolutely atrocious. And he was worse than Devin Williams was last year. So I don't think that's going to be the case. I think Devin Williams is going to bounce back fine. Minter, I think, is going to be fine. Luke Weaver, the rest of the pitching staff that they have, I think they're going to be good. Is it good enough to beat Philly? It's possible. It's possible because, in my opinion, Philly didn't do enough to upgrade. They swapped a little bit in a question mark with Adolis Garcia over Nick Castellanos. They have their GM talking out of his ass, ripping his players. I'm sorry. What have you done to improve this team? What have you done? Ranger Suarez walked. What did you do? You're just basing it on what? The young talent? Another situation where a team that was not the best team in the league, maybe the best in their division, because you had the Braves go catatonic, you had the Mets completely fall apart, you had the Marlins who were just the Marlins, and the Nationals who I don't even know if they know how to spell their name in that division. And they won it by 11 games or whatever it was. Fine. But you're now running it back and you lose a formidable guy in your rotation in Ranger Suarez. You don't know what Zach Wheeler and how he's going to look. We truly don't know. We hope for the best. We want to see the absolute best out of him because this could be his last season because we don't know what 2027 is going to be. We want to see Zach Wheeler perform, correct? We don't know what he is. They downgraded a little in their rotation. They didn't do anything to me on offense. And you have a GM that is coming out of his ass saying stupid thing after stupid thing, ripping his star player, ripping the player that chose Philadelphia and chose to be there and bought into everything about that city, who, I'll be honest with you, when Harper was first coming up, couldn't stand him. I thought he was like a young, arrogant punk kid. And then the more he's been around the game and the more he's grown up and matured, he's one of my favorite players. And I hate to admit that because he wears that Philly uniform. But the way he talks now, he's so much more mature than he was when he first came up as a 20-year-old with the Nationals organization. For Dave Dombrowski to say the things that he said about his star player, he should be completely embarrassed and ashamed. And you know what? Not that I'm rooting for Philly, but I hope Harper sticks it to him. I hope they finish in second behind the Mets, but I hope Harper sticks it to him. I hope Harper rips 45 home runs this year and drives in 125 RBIs just to stick it to his GM because that is completely asinine that you would actually come out and say that about one of your players. You want to say it about a guy that left? Fine. But to say something like that about the face of your franchise right now, you should be fired on the spot. That was pathetic. All right, my rant's over.
Yeah, or say it like in closed doors because I actually agree with them, but like just say it in closed doors if you want.
Yeah, tell him that to his face and not to a bunch of reporters if you're gonna do that.
Yeah, you know what? Tell him. Go to your face. Yo, you're not an elite player no more, bro. Sorry. See how that goes.
Why do you even gotta say it?
But
why do you even gotta say it? Some things are better left unsaid. Who cares?
Yeah, but you know what? If you're having a meeting with the player because you're concerned about maybe what his output is in the field, maybe Bryce went to him and said, "Hey, I want a raise. I want a reconstruction of my contract. I want more money." But who knows? But who knows what would happen? I just think you say that thing. You do have to say that.
But Bryce didn't do that publicly, and this guy did it publicly. And now you put your player in a position that now he has to answer questions. You're going into a distraction because look at what happened with Castellanos. He supposedly brought a beer into the dugout after he got benched. And that was supposedly the biggest distraction. So you're trying to separate. You released him, told him not to come to camp. You couldn't find a trade suitor for him, told him not even to show up. Couldn't figure that out. Supposedly the Yankees were close to making a deal for him, and that fell through.
They got talked out of it. Brian Cashman got talked out of it.
Yeah. Good. So, that was a thing. You get rid of a distraction, and then as soon as that distraction is gone, as the GM, you now turn your attention to being the distraction. Make it make sense.
No, yeah. Listen, I agree. I do agree. I just do think if he had something to say, you said that behind closed doors. It's not like he was saying it about, a fourth year player, or whatever it is. It's Bryce Harper. You said it behind closed doors, so a guy like Bryce Harper.
Yeah, yes, my backdrop just fell, and I'm pulling it down now.
Guys, if you're watching that on YouTube, it just a little funny blooper just occurred with Mike's backdrop.
Technical difficulty, and I'm just an idiot.
No, but check this out, though. Look, like I said, that's something that maybe should have been said at Thanksgiving, the dinner table. You could have just said that to your wife and the family. Yo, this guy's not an elite player no more, or something like that.
Could you imagine?
I agree with them. Like, I don't think Bryce Harper's an elite player no more, but I do think it did fuel him. It's gonna fuel him. So, look, Do I think it was the right move? Absolutely not. But do I think it's going to benefit the Phillies offense? Absolutely.
That's fair.
Yeah, it's kind of unfortunate, but I think it could be maybe it's reverse psychology. Maybe he's trying to light a fire under Bryce's ass,
Yeah.
which I think it worked. So
It might have. I mean, it definitely pissed him off. It would piss me off. I mean, what? Like,
yeah,
because Bryce could go after him as a general manager and say that you're not an elite general manager. We could play that game all day
yeah.
if we really
True.
want to. Guys in the comments, we gave you our takes. Maybe some of you surprised that I'm not, completely jumping on the Mets bandwagon and saying that they're going to win the division. Listen, I can't make that claim yet. There are a few question marks. So, guys, hit us up. Let us know what you think about the NL East. Let us know what you think, even with the Philly stuff and the stuff that Dombrowski has said about his face of his franchise. I think listen, I'm not going to give my take again. You guys heard it. Rewind it if you want to hear it again. But we want to hear yours. So throw it in the comment section. Share this and like and follow to everybody. And before we go, we have the wild card. We'll get over that pretty quick. Ben, Joe, whoever wants to take it, who are your 3 wild card picks?
I have the Mets, Padres, and Pirates. I do think, the Pirates. I know Ben made some points where, obviously their health and God forbid one of them goes down there cooked. I totally get that, but let's just say, let's keep the grass green for a second, right? With the flowers blooming. Let's say everybody does stay healthy. I think this is a playoff team. I think they could, round out that 3rd spot in the wild card. And honestly, I think they've done enough offensively. I think Ryan O'Hearn is a nice bat. I think Marcelo Zuna is a nice bat. Obviously they have a lot of young talent coming up, and I think O'Neal Cruz is going to have a bounce back season. Me and Brew had talked about that in one of the last shows. I don't think he's going to hit 200 again. I think there's going to be a lot less pressure on him now to perform, and I think he's going to have a really good season. So I can see them making the playoffs, and I think the Mets and the Padres, however you guys want to flip flop them, 1 or 2, I think they'll be in the top 2 spots.
Okay, I'll throw you one thing though, because there's something I peeped. For your NL Central predictions, you said Padres, Pirates, Mets, right? You have the Cubs finishing over the Pirates in the NL Central, but you have the Pirates making it into the wild card over the Cubs. So how would that work statistically speaking if you have the Cubs finishing at 2nd and the Pirates at 3rd?
Uh-oh.
That's a good question. I didn't really think about that, to be honest with you. That's actually a really good question. I don't know. I still think it could happen. I think maybe they fight for the spot and somehow they get beat out. I'm not sure. I don't know. I like the Pirates this year. I really do.
Okay, so check this out. I actually went through a dilemma that was pretty heavy right here because I like the Pirates, but I also like the Reds. And I still do like the Reds because of Francona. But I have the Dodgers with the 1st seed, the Brewers with the 2nd seed, Phillies with the 3rd seed, and then my wild cards, I go 4th seed the Mets because I do think they're the best NL wild card team. I got the Cubs at 5, but unfortunately, I didn't take either the Reds or the Pirates. I took the Padres at 6 because I just think that offense is too good to not make the playoffs, and that they probably have the best bullpen in the league. So I took the Padres over the Reds and Pirates just by a little bit.
Brew, we again have the exact same thing. I have the Mets leading the way as far as the wild card goes. I have the Cubs right behind them, and then I have the Padres rounding out and being the 3rd team. Listen, I could see a world where the Padres maybe fall off. I mean, we saw how last year played out. Teams were locked into spots. Detroit was a dead runaway in the AL Central. We saw how that played out. There was a lot of situations that things got crazy. The Mets were making the playoffs. They were leading the division at one point and get beat out by the Marlins in the last game of the year. The Reds sneak in. Anything is possible. So to Joe's point, because I did notice that too, where he had the Cubs and then the Pirates sneaking in. Maybe that's how the mind works. That's where I'm going to defend them, and I'm going to say, you know what, I can understand where that is because projection-wise, you're going to see that these teams should finish here. But anything could happen in the last couple of weeks of the season. Teams go on runs. Who knows who makes the steal of the deadline? Maybe the Pirates are the one that go trade for that pitcher or that hitter that has a historic run for the second half of the year. So I can understand where that kind of, maybe fell off a little bit. Ben, good shot. I wonder if anybody listening caught that as well. If you did, kudos to you. If you didn't, maybe you're not. Maybe we're background noise for right now. Maybe we're gonna, we'll take over that top thing. But yeah, I think the Mets are gonna take that top wild card spot. The Cubs, I'm not completely sold on them, but I can't ignore they did win 90 games last year. They were in the playoffs. I can't ignore that. I don't think there's another team in the Central outside of the Brewers that are better than them. As much as I could say I like Cincinnati last year, I like Cincinnati because they were headed in the right direction. And then to me, now they've stalled. They've done absolutely nothing. If anything, they've lost a couple of pieces. So now I'm kind of on that, like, you're kind of wasting your time here because you should have upgraded and you chose not to. The Pirates actually made moves. I would not be surprised if they're at least in it until the last week of the season, maybe even the last series. Maybe they sneak in. The Padres, I've given my take with them. I'm not fully sold. I could see them also falling out of the spot to who? Maybe the Diamondbacks. Because the Diamondbacks, like I said, they were in it till the final series of the weekend at the end of the year last year. So that's at least where I have it right now. Mets, Cubs, Padres.
I like that. I think that's really solid.
Of course you like it. It's the same as yours.
That's why.
But
Look,
go
I
ahead.
will say this. I thought he made a mistake. I thought that's why I thought he meant to have the Cubs as his last wild card spot. So I was like,
I am iffy about the back end of that rotation. I'm a little nervous about Jameson Taillon. Is Shota going to have a good year? I don't know. I statistically, yes, I think they do finish second, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Pirates got in as a wild card. I just, for some reason, I feel like the tides are going to turn this year.
Could be possible. Listen, anything is possible. We've seen stranger things happen. Absolutely. I'm not talking about the Netflix show. I'm just saying in baseball in general. Guys, any final thoughts before we go?
not really. I think it's going to be a really fun National League in general. I just hope that the Dodgers don't run away with it, low key.
No, I they didn't run away with it last year. I think what did they win by 3 games the division?
Yeah.
I don't see them running away with it. I mean,
better.
Actually, maybe they would.
They got better.
Yeah,
I wouldn't be surprised if they won up by 10 games. But the Padres do have a great bullpen. They should be able to hold down a lot of back into those games that they're up, late innings. They should be able. I think they should be able to win 93, 94 games. The Padres, if you think about it.
Maybe. We'll see.
But I would be surprised if the Dodgers won 104 and win that division by 10 games. So
it's definitely possible. So I'll say this as I always do before we get out of here. Guys, again, comment section. What do you guys think? Where do you have the wild card slots? Where do you see our lists here? Where do you see that the way we broke everything down? Was my rant about the Phillies good enough? Was it epic enough for you guys? Did I rip David Dombrowski enough to maybe, ironically enough, defend Bryce Harper, a guy that I really never thought I would actually enjoy? And that's, not being disrespectful, but I mean, we all saw how his career started. But in reality, guys, we do appreciate you. You are our motivation to keep this show going, keep this channel going. So by all means, again, like, follow, share, subscribe to everything that we've mentioned, to everything that we've had. And I'll see you guys next time.